Welcome, welcome. Glad you guys are tuning in today for us just to talk a little bit. My name is Chris Ediger. I'm with Craft Leadership based in Atlanta, Georgia. We work with craft breweries to be able to help them build great teams and great leaders. And a lot of what we're going to talk about is the stuff that we talk about every single day with our clients. So, um, kind of as a backdrop for this, a lot of times when we're talking to breweries, and this is common outside of the brewery space, but I think it's very, very typical within the brewery space, is that when people find themselves in a leadership position, it's really because they've gotten good at something, right? You've got someone that's a brewer that is an excellent brewer, and they get put in charge of other brewers, right? You get really good at skill, you get elevated into a position of leadership within that. And that's really good. And it's smart because you need that. You need that competency and credibility to be able to transfer to other people. But at the end of the day, brewing beer, a great beer, and leading a team of brewers are really two different, totally different skill sets. And if you find yourself in leadership, you've probably done one of those really well, right? You've probably already developed a skill set at a level that someone has recognized and placed you in charge of other people to be able to do that same skill. The other side of that equation, though, which is leading a team of people, leading the people skills, is usually where there's a huge deficit. I was actually talking with one of our brewery clients this morning, just half an hour before the session, and she was talking about this fact. She's got someone on her staff who has been with the brewery for a while, has been elevated into a higher level brewery position. And she said that they've never really filled that people leadership gap. And that's very, very common. And at the end of the day, I don't think most brewers, most leaders want to be there. I know that there's narcissistic, toxic, terrible leaders that are out there. I Thankfully, in my experience, I haven't met a lot of them. I think it's very much a minority. I think most leaders care. Most leaders work hard. Most leaders want the people that they lead around them to succeed. And they put their energy into that, and they're trying to do the right things on a day in and day out basis. But passion really isn't something that is just going to automatically translate to progress and success. And I would even extend that a little bit farther to say that our default, when we care, when we want to help other people succeed, but we haven't had the training maybe to know how to do that well, our default usually is, I'm going to lead people the way I would want to be led, right? So I may be a leader that says, gosh, I need to have a difficult conversation with someone on my team. And I prefer that people don't dance around issues. I just want people to cut the chase, not try to better me up, say all the nice things. Let's just get to it. Like, what do we really need to talk about? I want to improve. I don't mind. I've got a tough skin. So I want people just to say it to me. And so if that's the kind of leader that I am, and I care about the people on my team, then my default a lot of times is, well, that's what I would want. So I'm going to do that for them. Again, out of the generosity of wanting to be a good leader. And you all know where that's going, right? Not everybody wants to be direct told about the hard, challenging things in their life. There's other people that are like, I would love for you to better me up, make sure that I feel good. Tell me the stuff that I'm doing well before you kind of open the can of things that need to improve. So, leading others the way we would want to be led, it really isn't a practical, translatable, successful thing, unless the person that's on the other side of you happens to be wired like you, which is not the most common thing that happens. Really, what we need to do is we need to lead people the way they need to be led. And that requires a much more deep knowledge of ourselves, our tendencies, as well as the people that we lead. And so if passion, the want to, isn't going to cut it out to be able to get the kind of leaders and develop the people around you that you need to, that maybe you've been put in charge of, then what is the process? How do you go about this? So I want to offer a tool that we teach with brewery leaders all the time, and let this be kind of a way to do this. There's a lot of ways that you can develop people, but this has been a proven process that we have used over a decade with brewery leaders with a lot of success. It comes from a company called Giant. It's someone that we partner with. They're a worldwide global leadership company. They've got excellent tools that really translate well into the brewery space, and so we'll oftentimes use their tools. And I want to kind of walk through one of those tools called the Developing Others Square. Now, there's a lot going on the screen with this. I'm going to pull back and kind of hide some things and be able to talk through it in a little bit more detail. But just as a big picture, what this tool is really designed to do is to take someone who doesn't know anything and help develop them into a place where they become the expert. And they're actually helping other people learn and develop and training other people in that. And there's a process that you can follow to be able to get from here to there. And it's these 4 stages. And if we look at those 4 stages, we kind of break them down based on confidence levels and competency levels. Everybody starts at the top. So if you're at the top, this unconscious incompetence foundation stage, like, you just don't know what you don't know, right? So there's a lot of high confidence. A lot of times we look from the outside and go, oh, I bet that I could do that. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So there's a lot of confidence, but there's not a lot of competence to go with it. They really don't know. They think they know, but they really don't know what they don't know. When you get into the immersion stage of actually starting to learn and to grow, and someone hopefully is pouring into you and developing you, it actually causes your confidence to decline at first, because all of a sudden you're faced with reality of like, oh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And it takes a while for competency to form, right? If you've ever trained somebody on skill sets, like, it can take a lot of time. Again, I was talking to the brewery leader this morning, and they were talking about bringing on a new brewer, and sometimes it can be a 3-month process to be able to grow all of those skills. So when they're over here in the immersion stage, just getting started, they probably have lower confidence, declining competence, as well as low competency. Now, as you go through and you start developing them, that's when the confidence starts to go up. They start to understand things a little bit more. They start to understand the responsibilities, start feeling better about their ability to be able to learn and to grow. And so it rises until it gets to this point of multiplication, where it's almost like an unconscious competence, like riding a bike, right? They have a high confidence level and a high competency. So let's kind of pull back and walk through each one of those stages and look at what the experience is like for the person on the other side of you. So I would encourage you, like, if you've got somebody on your team, somebody that you maybe are in charge of developing, someone that you see potential in, that you want to develop, I want you to think of them. I want you to think very specifically of that person. Keep their face, their name at the forefront of your mind. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through what each one of these stages looks like from your side as the leader developing them, as well as what it looks like from the person that you're trying to train and to develop. And then I'm going to show you a couple of kind of red flags that you need to watch out for, maybe some tips for helping you to be able to walk them through each one of those. And then we'll end with some next steps, some practical things that you can do to be able to put some of these things into practice. So let's start with the top, the foundation stage. We would say this is unconscious incompetence, which basically means you just don't know what you don't know. I likened this. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, not too far from Augusta, Georgia, the home of the Masters. And, it can be very easy. I'm not a golfer by nature. I can swing a club, do okay, but not that great. You wouldn't want me on your team, right? So if I'm watching a golfer on TV, there's this temptation, I think, for me to go, gosh, how hard can that be? Like, they're just swinging a club and hitting a ball, right? And how many times do we do that when we're looking from the outside in? We're looking at people who have a skill set, and you're just like, oh, I bet I could do that. I bet I could do that. How many times have I taken pictures of things that someone has built, and I'm like, I bet I could build that, right? Like, there's just this kind of innocence a little bit, and that we just don't know what we don't know. And that's where we all start, right? And when someone is at that stage where they really don't know what they're doing, and they don't know the intricacies, and they don't have the competency yet, but they've got a lot of confidence, like, your role as the leader is to do it, and then they watch. So it's I do as the leader, you watch. What that means is I want you to shadow me. I want you to look over my shoulder. or maybe someone on the team. I want you to see what they do, see what I do. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to give you anything to do. Like I don't trust you to actually take control of that thing quite yet. Because if it breaks, guess what? It comes back on me, right? Like I do is also like I'm owning the weight of the responsibility. If this works, or I'm still responsible to get this done the right way, on time, right? That's the appropriate place to begin. What you don't want to do is you don't want to throw somebody in the deep end and then, hopefully they learn how to swim that way. That's not an effective way to start a developing, apprenticing relationship. You got to start with this. Okay, at the beginning, I'm going to do it. You watch. Now, you quickly need to get to the place where they're learning, right? We call that the immersion stage. It's where they're very conscious of their incompetence, right? Now they know what they don't know because they're actually having to do it. And what's really interesting is up here, it might be that they saw you doing it. They heard you telling them how to do it. And they're like, yeah, I got it. And then all of a sudden you hand the reins over to them and it's their turn to do it. And they're like, wow, that seemed a lot easier when you were doing it. That seemed a lot easier when I was hearing you. But now that I'm actually having to do it, I forgot all the steps that you told me in the first place, right? So again, this is where that confidence level is going to go down. They're going to take a ding because it takes a while and it's messy. And in your role as the leader is I do, you help. So it's still, I own the responsibility. I'm still the one that if this isn't done the right way and the right manner and the right time, I'm going to have to own that. Like, you're not going to be held responsible. I am, because I'm the leader in this and you're just learning, right? But it's not you watching me anymore. It's actually you helping. So I'm going to start giving you small things to learn and gain confidence and competency in. I'm not going to dump you and give you everything at once, but I'm going to do it very strategically to go, hey, here's the 10 skill sets that I need you to do. And it starts with one. Why don't you do this one thing? And I'm right here next to you, probably still shoulder to shoulder, helping you go through that until you start to gain some confidence and some competency. And that process can take a long time. And chances are the person that you're training is on the other side of you going, I don't know if I'm going to get this. I don't know. Maybe they made a mistake in hiring me or promoting me or thinking that I could kind of be put in charge or do this important thing. So there's this self-confidence, this self-deprecating that kind of enters in there, and the low self-esteem when it comes to it, right? It's a decreasing, diminishing, declining confidence level. And what makes it really difficult is for you as the leader, you probably have the same thoughts, right? You've trained people that have taken a long time and you're just like, gosh, did I make a mistake? Should I not have hired them or not have promoted them or not selected them for this? Are they ever going to get it? You're thinking the same things that they're thinking, which can be really dangerous if you're not careful. You have to understand where they're at and that they're not going to stay there. It takes time, but they'll start to gain some confidence as they start to pick up some things. And you see this as like we put this as a pendulum. So imagine it's not static. I mean, gosh, it would be great if we just go, they're here, and then they're here, and then they're here, and then they're done. And we like to think that's development. It's just like this straight and linear path. It's not. It's a pendulum. And what that means is you come in today and the pendulum is swinging closer to conscious competence, and you're like, all right, there's some progress. They're getting it. And then guess what? You come in the next day or the next week and the pendulum is swung back here, and you're like, where did that go? They had it last week. I had a lot of confidence in them last week because it's a pendulum swing. And we've kind of put the arrow around the corner because that's where we want it to happen, right? It's back and forth, but pretty soon this pendulum is like swinging more and more around the corner, right? And at this moment right here where the arrow crosses the corner to this competency side, it's that light bulb moment, right? You've been there where all of a sudden it's like, gosh, am I ever going to get this? Are they ever going to get this? And then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, I got it. And that should be a really encouraging moment. But the reality is that's a very dangerous moment. So here's a red flag for you as the leader that you need to watch out for. What happens is this is a pendulum, right? So when the pendulum moves to the other side and they get something, the light bulb goes off, they find something clicks and they finally understand it or they do it successfully. Here's our temptation and their temptation. I'll start with them. Their temptation, because they've been over here in this, like, am I ever going to get it? Maybe they had made a mistake. Like all of a sudden, they get it. And their temptation is to go, oh, I got it. Chris, thank you. I got it. And they're kind of like pushing us away a little bit, doing the Heisman, like keeping us at arm's length, because they felt incompetent for so long. And they felt like I've been incompetent in my leader's eyes for so long. Like now I've got it. Oh, thank goodness. Like I want to kind of convey this over sense of confidence. All of a sudden it's like, I got it. I got you. I'll let you know if I need you. But the reality is they never let us know, right? Because what happens is they do that. And if you're the leader who's been walking in the smog, with them, chances are you're like, this is a moment. Thank goodness they've got it. I'm going to move out. Like, because I've been needing them to get this for a while for a reason, right? Maybe I've been covering for the slack, right? Maybe the gap. Maybe I've been trying to train them because I need to move over here and do more, right? Or I've got something that I need to spend my time on that I need to free my time up so that they can do it, so that I can move on to the thing, right? So now's the opportunity. They've got it. The light bulb goes off and I exit the process. But it's a pendulum. And the pendulum the next day, the next week, always swings back. And so what happens is that thing that they got that clicked, the light bulb moment, it might be the next day they come in and they're like, hold on a second. Dang it, I forgot. Like, how did I do this, right? And if they've pushed you away and or you've moved away from the process, all of a sudden they're in the immersion stage still. And there's no more I do. It's they've owned the responsibility and you're nowhere to be found because they've pushed you away, because you've let go and moved away thinking your job was done. But honestly, it was premature. And we call that moment a pit of despair, because if you're in this place where you've pushed off your leader and you've kind of portrayed this air of confidence and I finally got it. And then the last thing you're going to do is go back to them the next day and go, I know I said I had it, but actually I still need some help. Like that's a really hard place to be when you've pushed someone away or when they've left. And so people get stuck. And this is the danger for them, is they get stuck in this pit of despair. And what happens for you is you don't know they're there. And then it's like a week later, a month later, a few months later, like the strain of the fact that they're not as competent as they need to be in that role for whatever reason. They're in that pit of despair and you didn't know they were until something breaks. And all of a sudden something is gone and you're just like, man, I thought you had it. You said you had it. If you needed something, why didn't you come to me, right? There's all this finger pointing. But the truth is, someone that's in a pit of despair, like it's a recipe for disaster for the brewery. It's a recipe for disaster for them. And a lot of times people, get into a place where they leave, they get disgruntled, they get disappointed, they get let go because they got stuck in something that was highly preventable. So if you feel like you have someone that's stuck, it's really hard to get them out. Not impossible. Probably the best thing you can do is what I'm teaching you today, which is how do I avoid someone falling into that pit? But if you've got someone, here's some things that can help pull people out possibly. One, it takes some time. And time has to be informal and formal. And what I mean by that is it might be like, I'm going to start connecting with them again regularly. We were doing that during the training process. They said that they had it. I thought they had it. I walked away. We haven't been meeting as regularly. Step back in and go, hey, let's start meeting again once a week until we get through this thing, right? Informal is just check-ins. It's just like coming up to him. It's just seeing how you're doing. It might be like grabbing a beer after work, taking him to lunch. Like it's just those informal places. It takes both of those because the formality part can feel very pressing, especially if they're stuck, and all of a sudden they think that they're stuck, and there's a little bit of shame in that. Like that, if it's just all formal, it can be really hard. You need to be able to step in a relational capacity and just make sure that they know, hey, like you're a person beyond just a task. It takes restating the vision, right? It's restating the long-term vision, which is like, hey, I didn't make a mistake. I do think you've got it. I picked you for a reason. I've seen glimpses, like there's times that you've gotten it. We just need to pick it back up. You'll get there, right? And then it's short-term vision. It's not being overwhelmed. A lot of times when you're in this development process, you're like, here's the 20 things I need you to learn. That can be really overwhelming, right? So pull back, taper back, and go, hey, let's just start with this one thing. Let's just focus on this one thing until you've got it. So you go back into the step-by-step, right? That can be really encouraging for someone if they can see, okay, it's not this big thing. We're just focused on doing this one thing really well. And then be specific, like give them encouragement, help them know like, hey, you did it. Like that thing, show them when they do something well, man, pour the praise on, make sure that they do it. And be as specific as possible so they can see. When you do that, when you give them time, when you give them vision, when you give them encouragement, you've really opened up the opportunity for them to kind of climb out of that pit and continue the process that you started with them. So hopefully there's some things in there that can help someone if you've got someone that's stuck. Again, ideally, you don't go in the pit of despair, right? Like you understand, okay, this is a pendulum. Yes, the pendulum can swing to this competency. I may see a glimpse. They may get it. The light bulb may go on, but doesn't mean that they're done. It doesn't mean that my kind of position in this is finished, right? Like it continues. The pendulum continues to swing. And again, this is kind of like this side where this pendulum turns the corner, but it's still spinning most of its time in the immersion stage. That's true with conscious competence. You may get down here, and over time, like they're going to get more and more and more. Their competency level is going to continue to increase. Their confidence level is going to increase over time. But there's still going to be those moments, right, where that pendulum kind of catches back over here and they stumble, they don't quite do it, they mess something up, they need your help, your more direct involvement. But when you're over here, when you start to see that pendulum picking up steam and being more and more on this kind of empowerment stage, your role starts to shift, right? As a leader, it's more, okay, you're the one doing it. I'm just here to help. What that means is at this point, if it breaks, if it doesn't get done the right way, they're the ones that are going to have to own that, right? That's this pendulum of when you're delegating and empowering somebody to do something. It's not just about doing the task. They own the weight of the responsibility and the authority, right? And that's good, and it's challenging. But at this point, they own that process for those things. But you're still present. You're not like off in a corner. You're not like, let me know if you need me. You're like, no, maybe we don't meet as often. Maybe we don't meet about as many things, but I'm still checking in. I'm still here to help. And you make sure that they understand that you're still there so that they can come back and go, okay, show me that again. What was that? Right? You're still an active part of the development process. And then lastly, you get to this point where it's an unconscious competence, right? The confidence level's high, the competency level's high. They don't need you anymore, right? When you're at this place, it really is you do it and I'm watching. Like I'm not even involved in the day-to-dayness. You're owning it. You're doing a great job. And in fact, at the end of the day, you could probably start to train other people and probably should start to train other people at some point, right? That's the solution for capacity constraints within a brewery, is to make sure that it doesn't end with them. Maybe they start to train some other people around them on those same things. But at this point, the pendulum's all the way on this side. They don't need your direct involvement. And for some leaders, there's two dangers. One for you as the leader is that it can be hard to let go. I know a lot of leaders who really enjoy this kind of coaching, developing process. They're really good at it. But they're so good at it sometimes that they don't want it to end. And so they never like step out and fully empower someone to be able to own that at the level. They're still kind of keeping their hands in it, still keeping their claws in it. And that's where it starts to feel like micromanagement. So that's a danger for you as a leader, is to not fully hand off and delegate and empower people into this ownership position. There's also a danger for the person on the other side of that, right? And we've done a lot of work with speakers and events and stuff, and it's amazing. You see people in the green room that just feel a little bit too confident, especially when you're just starting to come over here. It's like you start to feel like, man, I could do no wrong. Or I take my eye off the ball and I don't spend as much time and focus and attention as I should because it comes easily. Or maybe I get stuck. I'm so good at doing it one way that there's no innovation. So when a new innovation comes down the line, it can be hard for that leader to be able to change what they're doing because they've gotten really good at that a certain way, right? That's the green room. It's this idea, this air of overconfidence. If there's a danger up here for underconfidence, there's a danger down here for overconfidence that you have to watch out for. So that's the developing others process. It's something that a lot of times when we're working with breweries, it can be very, very less formal. I've seen brewery leaders that are just like, oh, there's this thing that I do that I want to train them on how to do it. I've got someone on my team that I lead. They're a rising leader. I want them to understand how to do this one thing. And that's it. They're not training them on anything else. They're just like, I want them to see this thing that I do. Eventually, I'd love for them to take that over or understand how to do it on their own. That's great. I've seen some breweries that have done this very, very formal. I had a brewery that was looking to expand, and they were looking, it was going to be their second location for the first time not, away from their main location. And we saw that, we knew in leadership and me working with them, we knew that was coming within a year or two. But nobody else knew. But what we knew is, okay, if you're in charge of this at the main brewery, the main location, your role is probably going to shift a little bit the way they had set it up, so that when they launched the second location, they needed to be able to train up some other people that knew how to do the things that they knew how to do. They needed to be very formal in this process. And so for about a year, we met together with these groups of leaders that they were all going to be training, not the replacement, but they were going to be training up the same skills in somebody else in a new way. And we literally, we had tracking sheets that we went through with this, where we were saying, what's the person you're trying to develop this week, this season? What's the specific task or tasks that you're trying to help them do? Which stage are they in? Foundation, immersion, empowerment, multiplication for this skill set, right? I may be training someone with 3 or 4 different skills or tasks for their role. They're probably at a different place on the square for each one of those. They may be still in immersion stage for one, and they may have, be really good and be in a multiplication stage for another. So for that specific skill, where are they at? What's the stage? And then I had them write down, like, what's your role if they're in that stage for that task, right? And here's I do, you help. And they would keep these sheets. Every Friday, the challenge was like, hey, set a reminder, 3:00, take 15 minutes, update your sheets. Update, like, where they come from? What do we need to do next week? And then we would get together once a month as a team to kind of check in and evaluate. And it was a pretty large group. It was a fairly good sized brewery. So they say there's 10 leaders in the room. We would give 3 of them a hot seat. So I do some reminders on, here's the process, here's why we're doing it, here's what you need to be doing on a week in and week out basis. And then we would just randomly select 3 people, and they would be on the hot seat, and they would kind of pull out their sheet in front of everybody else and say, hey, I'm working with Jared, and here's the 3 things I'm working on, and here's where he's at with this one, here's where he's at with this one, here's where he's at with this one. And then they could use the rest of their time to just report out or celebrate something, like, hey, I want to show you a win that Jared had this week. Great. They could ask for advice. They could go, I'm kind of stuck. helping this leader? Anybody else have experience? Anybody have any ideas how to do this so they could actually collaborate with other people? And every month we would get together, and different 3 people would kind of be on the hot seat, and we would do this. We did this for an entire 12 months. And it was really interesting. It followed the curve of this, right? Because at the beginning, when you get to this like declining confidence, like all the stories were, I don't know if they're going to get it. Oh man, they really screwed up. Oh, I'm struggling with this, right? Like that was, nobody had high competency because we were just starting the process. They were early in the square, right? But over time, month after month, especially after 3 to 4 to 5 months, we started seeing glimpses of celebrations of empowerment and multiplication. And then guess what? By the time we got to month 9 and 10 and 11, like most of the stories were down here. And there were people that were celebrating wins of going, I didn't think he would ever get it. But all of a sudden we're in this place where, let me tell you what he's doing now. And it's just blowing my mind, right? And it was a way that we were able to celebrate. So take this and use it however you want to use it. You might just have one thing you need to get off your plate and equip somebody else to be able to do because you're a small shop and you don't have a lot of people to be able to do it. You might be a growing brewery that goes, I need to be a little bit more formal in this, and we need a process for hiring and training somebody or rising a leader who's already on the team. And maybe this is a really easy formal way that you can start to go through that process. However you need to do it, take some time to be able to do that. And then, I'll share my email address here in a little bit. I'm happy to answer questions, jump on the phone, help any way that I can to do that. Now, one more nuance before I let you go. And that's this. The reality is that the leader, you, and the team member that you're developing are likely not wired the same. Remember that illustration of like, I'm going to lead people the way I would want to be led? That only works if the person's like you, right? And most of the time, they're not like you. And this process can look very different with nuances based on different kinds of leaders and different kinds of team members. So I don't have time to go into this on this call, but I would love to be able to talk to you guys about this sometime, right? Like we use a tool called the 5 Voices. That's just a way to help understand, these are my tendencies. This is how I react. This is how I work. This is how I lead. And then everybody on my team has a different wiring, a different voice, right? So you might have a leader who's we'd say is a guardian. Guardians are very like here and now, detail-oriented, process-driven people, task managers, keep things on time, on budget, care about all the details, want things proved out, want to be able to not be too risky, right? Like there's a lot of leaders, especially in the brewery space, that are guardian by nature. So let's say that the leader is a guardian. And let's say that they have a nurturer on their team that they're kind of walking through this process. Now, a nurturer is very here and now oriented, but they're much more thinking about the people relational side of things. So they're more in tune with where's the team at? How's this person doing? They're working for kind of collaboration and harmony and, kind of fighting for the good of the people around them. And so you get to this point and go, okay, I'm training this leader that's a nurturer. Again, guardian's probably of the mind that says, just tell me how it is. Let's have a hard conversation. Don't butter me up. That is not a nurturer. A nurturer is like, make sure I understand what I'm doing right before you start telling me what I'm doing wrong. So that may be a skill that you need a nurturer develop, is like, hey, as a nurturer, here's how to have a hard conversation with other people. And you can't be protective of them. You can't just tell them all the good stuff and never talk about the gaps and things that they need to grow. So this guardian leader leading a nurturer who's very different from them through this process, looks one way. And then all of a sudden, if you're like, oh, wait, there's a creative. Well, creative's much more big picture, future, vision oriented, thinking about where are we going? What are we doing next? How do we do it in a way nobody's ever done it? Like that can be really hard and abrupt for a guardian. Because the guardian's like, this is how you do it, right? You do it the way we've always done it, or here's the SOP and here's the steps. And you don't need to have a lot of creative freedom in that. That can be really hard for a creative to not kind of think outside the box or want to innovate too quickly. They may be thinking too far down the line and missing the details and the gaps. So how this leader leads this creative through maybe the exact same skill sets looks really different than the nurturer. So understanding who I am and how I'm wired, understanding how the people on my team are and how they're wired adds all kinds of nuances to this process that makes it even more difficult. And if you didn't realize that, right, leadership is difficult. It's not an easy thing. If it's not a simple thing. This is part of the reason it can be a really challenging thing to do. So here's the takeaways. Here's where I would say I would focus my attention if I were you. First and foremost, know yourself and your own tendencies as best as you can. Like if you don't understand what you do well and not do well and what you struggle with and how you likely approach different things, like you need to be the best student of yourself possible. And I guarantee you that the people that you lead, the people you work with, the people you do life with, they already know. Like we're the last people to be made aware, right? We don't understand, especially negative tendencies. We're usually, by the time it dawns on us, everybody else is already aware of that thing. And they've probably been working around you in that tendency for a while. So you need to be the best student of yourself, understand your tendencies. And then you need to be a student of your people. You need to get to know them. You need to not treat them the way that you would necessarily want to be treated or do everything the way you would want it done. You need to understand them well enough to be able to lead them based on them. And then lastly, that's that last step, right? Lead and develop people the way they need to be led and developed. And there's a lot of ways you can grow in that. 5 Voices is one that can be really powerful. If you go to, I think we have craftleadership.co/5 Voices, you can take that assessment really for free. Doesn't cost you anything. You can start to understand yourself and each other a little bit better. But be a student of yourself, be a student of your people, and then take those steps that you need to be able to lead them the best way that you can. Now, I'll show you one thing that we've got that's about to be launched in October. Some of you watching this, it's a few weeks away. You might be watching this late and it's already out. So encourage you to follow the link as well as the QR code on the screen. It's a people leadership certification. So if we go back to the very first thing that I told you, right? Brewing great beer, leading brewers are 2 different skill sets. If you find yourself in leadership, you're probably already adept and competent at one of those, and you may or may not have ever had any kind of instruction that helps you to be able to know how to lead people effectively. That's what the People Craft Leader certification is about. It's really shoring up your people skills as a leader, and it's a certification to be able to help you to fill in those gaps. It's a self-study course. It's got 12 units. We're going to teach about 20 of these tools. This is one of them that we'll teach in greater detail. And just to be able to help shore up your skill sets when it comes to leading your people effectively. It's going to be launching next month. There's going to be a price break if you're one of the early ones to be able to sign up. So if you want to make sure you get that discount, just follow this QR code, follow the link underneath, and then join the waiting list. We'll let you know as soon as it's available before we let the general public know. And I encourage you to go through. You can read all about it. Let me know what questions you've got. And then this is my email address, chris@craftleadership.co. If you've got follow-up questions to this, if you're starting to do this, if you're wanting to do this, if you've got questions about anything that Craft does, or if there's anything in particular about actually putting this into practice, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I really don't mind. I'm happy to reach out and answer any questions you've got, help any way that you can. I want to help leaders. We want to help leaders that are passionate about doing the right thing and actually putting the energy behind what it takes to be able to do that. And if that's you, if you're a leader, a rising leader, or experienced leader that just has some gaps that you know about, or you just want to be a better, more effective leader at your brewery, please reach out. Let me know if there's any way that I can be able to help support you in that. Really appreciate your time, taking 40 minutes of your day to be able to do this, whether you're watching this live or tuning in later. I know that can take, your time's valuable, and it can be hard to squeeze this in. So if you're watching this, thank you for taking the time to be able to do that. Again, reach out. Let me know how I can support you in this at all. continue to plug into CBP, and just appreciate you guys tuning in today. Thanks again.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this session, we'd love to see you in real life. We host in-person workshops across the country for craft beer professionals just like you that are held in some of the most exciting beer destinations around. These immersive events are designed to help you grow and connect with others. You'll meet peers from across the country and leave with actionable strategies for success. Connection has never been more important, and you can learn more at cbpconnects.com. Cheers. See you there.